Our country experienced the disaster like volcanic eruption, typhoon, African swine fever, and the most horrible disease called severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, or known as COVID-19. This pandemic turned our life upside down. Based on Wikipedia, Calabarzon is the second most affected region in the country. The aim of this study is to understand the effect of pandemic to the digital learners of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English, fourth year level at ICCT College Cainta and their academic performance. This study shows the several problems that the digital learners of ICCT College Cainta who are taking secondary education, major in English, fourth year, who are affected of this unexpected situation. Like their emotional stability to their family and friends, their source of income, and most of all, their academic performance. We assume that the learners are struggling some difficulties such as from face-to-face class to online learning, and some are losing their job, and others can provide the materials needed in online class. We came up with this. If we didn't experience this pandemic, the learners are not experiencing difficulties in new way of learning, and they can financially support their educational needs. This study focused on the different effects of pandemic to digital learners. It also involves the source of the resources and the relationship of the learners to their families. The researchers have 32 respondents of secondary education, major in English fourth year level, at ICCT College Cainta main campus. The respondents answered the survey form created by the researcher through Google Forms for an easy access and tabulation of results.
For the local literature, this pandemic gave us much emotions like you are riding in the roller coaster, but this also paved the way to intro us in e-learning that is usually done by celebrities, working students, and the like. At first, it was kind of struggle to both teachers and students because we don't know how to use the educational applications like Edmodo and Google Classroom, and video conferencing and meetings applications like the Zoom and Google Meet. But in the process of always using it, gradually we'll learn how to use it. But for the thing is the poor internet connection that is the main problem for all of us. Maybe the situation is teaching us that we need to strive even harder and give our 100% best all the time in spite of the hardships and obstacles we may face right now. Just keep moving forward and endure all the pain for now because tomorrow you will sow that you reap and it will overwhelm you. That is the relevance of the literatures of our study.
Okay, my name is Sorel Suarez. I'm going to discuss about the chapter 3, which is in this slide, research design. Okay, in this slide, or in this study, the researcher used the descriptive research design because it aimed to describe the situation of the learners who are facing the different effect of the pandemic. And the next slide is the respondent of the study. Um, we choose the ICCT colleges who are taking secondary education major in English 4th year level at Kainta to be our respondent. The next slide is instrumentation. The instrumentation that was the researcher used, or the questionnaire that they formulated based on their study. We use Google Forms to create to conduct our survey. And the next step and the next slide is the frameworks, or conceptual frameworks, or naka-indicate dito sa input, lecture with research facilitator, presentation of research title to be approved by the facilitator. And the next one is yung process. Choosing of respondent, start doing the chapter of research and start conducting survey to the respondent. And the last one is yung output na quantitative data analysis procedure, finalize the result of research study to be approved by the facilitator. Then, doon na po natatapos yung aking slide. Thank you.
Chapter 4. In Chapter 4, we will see the Table 3, which is the profile of respondents, wherein the researchers choose to have a total of 33 respondents. Under the profile of respondents, we have their status, which are the digital learners and the working learners. In digital learners, we have 26 respondents with a total of 78.8%, and in working learners, we only have 7 respondents with a total of 21.2%, for an overall total of 100%. In analysis of data, we, the researchers, chose the question number 14, stated as, do you feel bothered if you cannot answer the given test through online? We chose this because this question illustrates the effects of pandemic to the digital learners, because we all know that since the pandemic occurred in our country, most of the digital learners are struggling in their learnings. Aside from that, we all know that the digital learners are grade conscious. They are being worried if they cannot comply to their activities and tests through online. Interpretation of data. As you can see, in the interpretation of data, we have illustrated the responses of the respondents in the question, do you feel bothered if you cannot answer the given test through online? In the chart, we clearly see that the result of the respondents' response in this question is most of the respondents are experiencing the effects of pandemic to their academic performance, wherein it gives a challenge to them on how they can address the new normal way of learning.
Chapter 5. The Chapter 5 contains the summary findings, conclusion, and recommendation. First one is summary findings. The researchers conduct a survey to the 33 respondents of digital learners of ICT Colleges Foundation Incorporated, who are taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English 4th year level. Most of the respondents were totally digital learners, and it only have 7 working digital learners. As a result of the study, most of the digital learners are experiencing the effects of pandemic to their academic performance, but they can manage their situations because we all know that the Filipinos are expert in doing different ways to conquer the challenges that they face in their lives. That's why the respondents are more resourceful to face the challenges in their academic performance caused by the pandemic. Aside from that, when it comes to their families or relatives and friends, they proved that during this pandemic, they have a healthy relationship to each other. That whatever happened or whatever challenges they may face, there is always a family that they can lean on and hold on. A family that will support each other. This pandemic makes a hard time to people, and it made a lot of changes, but in this study, as a result, we can say that no matter what effects of pandemic we face, we will surely address all the challenges, and we can also build a strong relationship with our families, relatives, and friends. Maybe we face a different emotional stability caused by the effects of pandemic, but still, at the end of the day, we will conquer all of this. The second one is conclusion. As we conclude our research, we found out that most of the fourth-year English major students of ICCT colleges, Kainta campus, have had a hard time adjusting to the new normal way of learning. And so the researchers too, but in spite of that, we are very optimistic that we will get through this pandemic very soon. The findings we did provide us that pandemic were really tough to live with, but we must go on in life. We cannot stop our life because we didn't expect this to happen. Life is so short, thus we should make the most out of it. This study of ours will be relevant and still significant in coming decades or the century because this kind of pandemic might happen again in the near future, sooner or later. We are not saying that pandemic should happen again or what. What we are trying to imply is just opening the minds of everyone that we should always prepared and ready for the worst happenings and at least have an ideas on how to deal on this kind of pandemic or problems. This pandemic taught us so many lessons to value for life. Like in a snap, we were immobilized. We cannot do what we used to do. We cannot personally meet our friends, relatives, co-workers, classmates, and etc. A lot of people lose their jobs, got retrenched, bankrupt businesses, big time or small time businesses. No one were exempted, but we know for a fact that this pandemic brought us a strengthened family bond as well. The pandemic taught us that we should value everything because we might not know that this pandemic or this might be the last day that we can see someone or to be able with someone or something. And last but definitely not the least is the recommendations. We, the researchers, recommend this study to the following. First one is to the future researchers. Doing research is not as easy as we thought, but if you have a dedication in life, you will survive all the challenges that you and your group will encounter. And also, with the help, support, understanding, cooperation of your group, nothing is impossible as long as all of you are willing to finish your studies. Next is to the digital learners. Having the changes in a way of learning is not easy, but as long as you are willing to finish your studies and believing to yourself that you can do it, for sure you will achieve it. No matter what effects of the changes you encounter, just have faith and definitely you will get through that. And last to the facilitator. The effects of the pandemic to the learners were not that easy to face because of drastic changes in the way of learning occurred. But with the patience, understanding, and especially the consideration of the facilitator gave to the learners, we can say that the learners will survive all the challenges they are facing through the new normal way of learning.